Early in this series of addendum videos to the July clinic, we covered the subject of random multiple blinking of LEDs. And we went through that code pretty good. Now, I know I probably lost half of you the first 5 minutes. I lost the other half of you 10 minutes in, but I tried my best. So I'm not going to repeat everything in this block of code. This is a series on random blinking and brightness of LEDs. It's based on the same code with just minor changes. So with that said, I want to just cover the differences that you'll see. And if you want more in depth on the code itself, you can go back and just look at my random blinking of LEDs, and you'll see the same code there. So let's get started. I don't have a on-screen shot of that, so we'll skip right to what it looks like on the breadboard. Now on the breadboard, we've got the same 6 LEDs that we've been playing with out there on the breadboard, but brought them in, but this time instead of attaching them to the digital inputs, pins 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13, I've moved their wires over to the pulse width modulating circuits. See the little tittle? Everywhere there's a tittle, that's a pulse width modulating channel. So I'm using pins 3, 5, 6, 9, 10, and 11. Okay, and this time I'm picking my ground up from my LEDs off of this ground. Just a more convenient place to do it. So that's the hardware setup. Everything else out there is the same resistors, same LEDs. So let's take a look and see how this works. We'll call up the video first. Let you see it play through in the video. I always start off here with a little bit of a little test pattern, so to speak. So let me speed it up a little bit to where now I've got it downloaded. I'll flip it on its edge. Now the one thing you'll notice that's different this time, as the LEDs blink, none of the LEDs turn off. They go from a brightness to a dimness, from a dimness to a brightness, but none of them ever turn off. So this might be useful if you wanted to do a twinkle twinkle little star, or outline a border on a billboard or something like that. Who knows what you could use it for? But it's a little piece of code that you can play with and check out. See if you like it. Modify it if you would. So let's bring up the code now. We'll take a look at the code. I'll bring up 2 pieces of code, one at a time, of course, so that you can see the difference between the two. This is the new code that we're going to be studying out. It's called My Random Bright. Okay, and get up here at the top. There's a couple of differences. This probably looks pretty much the same to you. See, I even got the same note in here. All right, play with everything above this point, make your settings, and you don't have to play with the code below. It takes care of itself. So let's see what the settings are. Okay, well, back to the top. LED count is still set to 6 because I'm playing with 6 LEDs. My LEDs, however, this time my array of LEDs, though I'm still using 6, the pin numbers are different. See here, 3, 5, 6, 9, 10, and 11. So I'm telling it to use a different set of pins. Let's go ahead and pull this other code up next to it so you can see those changes at the same time. All right. This is my random, the code for my random, where I turn the LEDs on and off in a random pattern. Okay, you can see I had LED 6 as 6. I had LEDs but I use pins 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So here you see I'm using different pin numbers. Okay, keep track if the LED has met the set time, and I set that array up to be 6 counts long, and I zero them all out. I do the same thing over here. Again, all I'm doing is reserving memory at this point to be used later in my code. Set the initial state. I keep that in this code as well. You can see high, low, high, high, low, low. It's even the same values. Okay. Then I added something new. How bright when high. Okay. So the initial, the brightness when I tell it to go high, I want it to be fully bright, almost fully bright, bright, lesser bright, lesser bright, lesser bright. Okay. Then I have one called how dim when you set it to low. So I have a dim array and with smaller numbers than the bright arrays. Remember, this is going to be pulse width modulated, so anything between 0 and 255 is a valid number. So you can see here, this one here, when I dim it to 5, that sucker's almost off, completely off. Okay. Here, when I set it to bright at 255, it's at full brightness. So this is the major change right here in the two sets of code. Okay. Then you see I go back and I pick up set time just like I did in the other code. So you can go back into random bright and you can listen to my video on that and learn how to use all that stuff. I'm just going to cover the difference in this one. Again, the set time, if the largest amount is 9,000, then the cycle time has to be set slightly higher than the largest set time. Again, that's to allow me time to cycle through all my pulsing circuits. If I drop down in here, you see here I do my same type setup. I do my previous mills equals 0 and I set all that stuff up. I set my outputs to the desired state. I set my pin modes to the output state. Okay, then I digital write. A small change here. See here, digital write, I just set it to state. High, low, high, low, high, low. Okay, here I said state, but instead of just using it straight out of the state array, I get the state, and if it's set to low, then I set the output to the dim setting. Else, it must be set to high, right? So if that's the case, then I go in and I get the value that I stored in bright, and I set the output to that. And so all my LEDs are either bright or dim as I desire at startup time. The rest of it remains the same. Serial began there, you see. I'm using my serial port again to display my results or for debugging. I go into my loop. Okay, and I've got my do and I've got my do whiles. The exact same do whiles as I have over here. Okay, that we studied in the other set of code. I remember my time when I start into it. Okay, here's where I print my stuff out to my serial monitor so you can see it. Okay, I do a few more print statements because I want you to show the bright value and I wanted to show you the dim value, and that way you can compare them to what's in the set state in the arrays. And I got to go way down where I got myself lost. Give myself time to catch up here. Where's my if statement? Oh, there it is. right? I do my test, right? If the previous mill, if current mills minus previous mills is greater than what's in set time, and the LED has not been tested, then drop in here, do my printout to my screen, okay? Delay for 10 milliseconds, okay? Do some more printout to my screen, and here's my if statement that changes. So here's my if current mills equals previous mills. Here's my if statement. See, I had a much simpler if statement here. Okay, I look at the I read in what the LED pin is doing right now. It's either high or low, right? So I read it in, I remember it in LED state. Then in LED state, I said if it's low, set it to high. Else set it to low because it must be high. Over here, I went and I looked at the pin, okay, and if the LED state was low, then I said toggle the state to high, okay, and I write the brightness, and the I write all this out to the serial board so you can see what I'm doing. If it's not low, it must be else, right? So it's got to be high. So I say toggle the state to low, and then I write it all out so you can see me what value I'm going to use when it's set to low. All right, with that said, let me just turn on the camera so you can see it running live. Let that just sit there for a second. I know it's glaring, but I want to go in here and I want to start my serial monitor for you so you can see that as well. This should look familiar to you. Right, this should look very familiar. The only thing I'm doing here is I'm telling you with the state, the LED state, high or low. And I'm telling you what brightness settings I'm using. Okay, and so now let me flip this up on its edge where you can see it a little better. There we go. Now you can see that the LEDs are not going off, but I'm looking at my difference, right? Again, here's 9,000 tested against 9,000 for I when I is equal to 2. Set the LED state to 0 and set the brightness, right? To bright or dimmed according to the state as I toggle the states. So this is how I debugged it. So with just a few extra lines of code, I changed my random pulsing of LEDs from on and off to a high brightness to a low brightness. So see how flexible that code is? Same amount of hardware, same amount of wiring, and yet I've completely changed what the user sees. Very powerful compared to hard wiring everything. Can you imagine how much wiring I have to do to change that brightness with hardware? I'd have to be changing the voltage level on the LED or changing the resistance level that's tied in series with the LED to consume more of that voltage. A much harder task than doing that through code. That really sums it up, guys. That's pretty much got everything. As far as the difference on this brightness layout. So with that, I'm going to close it up, and I'll let you can run through this code at your leisure and study it out, listen to my videos. I hope it helps you to understand it. With that, I'll say goodbye. Have a good day.